Alright, awesome. Hello once again. No, Alright, awesome. No, I'm back with. Hold on one second here. Had it pulled up on my phone to make sure everything's working properly. Hello once again. Here we are. We are at Hilton Head Airport, Class Delta Airport. We're going to be flying to St. Simons Island. It's a little something different today. Not only is it going to be a flight, I'm going to talk about my check ride. My check ride was about. When did I take my check ride? It's July. Well, about 3 months ago now. I took my check ride about 3 months ago. Yeah, basically we're just going to talk about how my check ride went, what my experience was like going for my private pilot's license, and also sharing my suggestions in preparation for the check ride. So before we get into all of that information, I'm going to go ahead and get this airplane started up here. Hopefully I can find the checklist. Okay, here's the checklist. So I'm just going to assume that the pre-flight checklist is done before engine start. We could say, alright, pre-flight inspection is complete. Passenger briefing is complete. Seats and seat belts are adjusted and locked. Awesome. And here, let me check my weight and balance. By the way, it's just me alone. Why not? And then we'll put the tanks on full. By the way, this is the Airfoil Labs Cessna 172 NG for X-Plane 12. Really cool aircraft. Has a very nice flying dynamic to it. And yeah. So let's see here. Seats and seat belts are adjusted and locked. Brakes, we'll go ahead. Parking brakes are released. Let's test the parking brakes real quick. I don't see any leakage, so pressure no leakage. Circuit breakers, we'll just verify that's all checked in. Circuit breakers are all checked in. Electrical equipments are in the off position. And avionics switch bus 1 and 2 are also in the off position. Awesome. So fuel selector valves on both. And fuel shutoff valve is pushed full in. And that's the before engine start checklist complete. You'll do the engine start battery. And so start checklist. Whoops. I think I messed this up. Oh, pause. There you go. It's kind of new. I'm new to using the checklist. I usually use the checklist on my 4th flight, but decided to use Airfoil Labs. Alright, so we're going to do the engine start with battery. So it says here throttle is open to 1/4 inch. Alright, mixture is full idle cutoff. A standby switch, we're going to test that for 20 seconds here. So I'll just set my timer. And we're counting 20 seconds. Alright. By the way, this is my second live stream. I did do a flight early this morning, I believe. I think it's this morning or probably an afternoon flight from Fort Lauderdale International to Atlanta. So be sure to check that out if you're also interested in the commercial flights as well on the sim. Awesome. So we're gonna put this bad boy to arm right here. We're just gonna wait for the PFD to verify the PFD comes on. So PFD does come on, and we're looking for these X's to come off, and then we're gonna verify our engine indicating systems. It's showing here on the annunciator, oil pressure, low voltage, low vacuum, and standby battery. Alright. Everything looks good with the engine parameters. Everything, it looks like it's at the idle position. And we can confirm that we have full fuel. Let's see here. Let's check our bus E volts. Our bus E volts is 24.5, which is what we want. 24 volts minimum. And we have our M bus, which is 1.5 volt maximum is 0.0, which is not a problem. And then the battery S, we want to check that. Battery S amps, check this at negative 2.4. That should go up. And then our M battery, our main battery is plus 0.0. If you'd like to see, the PFD has come alive. Standby battery annunciator is verified. And we can go ahead. We'll open these windows up here. Just me alone, so we'll clear left, clear center, clear right, clear prop. And let's turn the master batteries on, as well as our alternator. Awesome. Beacon light can come on. Get the flaps down. We'll put the flaps up. Alright. Now, because this airplane is its first day flying, it's going to be doing a cold startup. So we need to give the airplane some fuel. So we're going to continue with the priming procedure. So fuel pump switch is going to come on. Just going to go full rich for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, idle. We'll turn the fuel pump off. And then we'll start the magnetos. We'll put the magnetos halfway and put the key to the start position, let the engine catch, and then we'll introduce the mixture halfway. So there it is, catches. Keep it halfway until it fully catches here. There it goes. We're just gonna keep it at 12,000 RPM for now, just to make sure that that oil pressure is gonna come in, that the oil temperature is coming in as well. Let the engine warm up for a little bit. Alright. See, my oil pressure is coming back down into the green. My oil pressure is in the green and my oil temperature is in the green. And go ahead and reduce the throttle to 1,000 RPM. And let's go ahead and trimmer off the, let's go ahead and lean the mixture off the bat. Just looking for a bit of an increase. There's that one drop right there. So 180 is just fine for this aircraft. Throttle back to make sure it's not leaning towards 1100 RPMs. We'll put the flaps up. Turn the avionics on. We have our headsets on, of course. Alright, awesome. Magnetos verified on both. Alright, we'll move on to the next part. We did check our oil pressure. Let's check our amps. Our main battery amps is plus 0.7, which is good. Our standby battery is plus 0.1, which is also good. And then our low volt annunciator is checked, gone. Alright. Navigation light switches, we could go ahead and turn that on. And avionics are on. Alright, engine start. This battery checklist is complete. Now this is the GPU, which we don't need to worry about. So we'll go here to, because this is what they call, yeah, let's see. Okay, engine start. Alright, before takeoff. And based off of what I see here, this is the before takeoff includes before taxi, and run up. So we'll go ahead and do parking brake. We're holding onto the brakes. Pilot and passenger seats are in the upmost right position, as we can see. Seat and seat belts are check secured. Cabin doors are closed and locked. With flight controls, we can go ahead and check those before we taxi. Left aileron goes up, right aileron goes down, center, right aileron goes up, left aileron goes down, center. We'll check our elevators. Center, forward, center, and then left rudder, right rudder. So flight controls are free and correct. And then flight instruments on the PFD. Airspeed is showing 0. Attitude indicator 0 degrees of bank. It matches artificial horizon. Altimeter doesn't match barometric pressure. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and get the ATIS information here out of Hilton Head. We do that by tuning into 121.4. So I like to put that in COM 2. To 1.4, and we'll tune here.
At 12,
write down this information.
Temperature 30, dew point 22, altimeter 3011, arriving runway 03, departing runway 03. Advise on initial contact. You have information, Juliet.
Alright, so we have information, Juliet, it seems. Alright, so we have information Lima. We'll go ahead and switch that back to 1 to 1.5 and just listen into that. And then we can go ahead and tune into, well, in our case, we could just tune into a 18.975 because there is no one on the VATSIM network right now. So we'll just tune into 118.975 here at Hilton Head. And then we'll continue with our procedures. 118.975. Then to be ahead of the game, I also do not mind putting in some frequencies here at St. Simon. It is an uncontrolled airfield, so I don't mind putting in the CTAF, which is 123.05. And then also putting in the AWAS frequency is 120.025. This is a VFR flight. 025, that's checked. Alright, I'm happy with that. So, altimeter is 3011. And we also want to make sure that's set on our standby. So that's right there. Awesome. Okay, so flight instruments, PFD is checked, HSI is looking good. They did say winds are light at Vero, departing runway is 28, so I'll go ahead and just set that right there on the bug. And then standby altimeter is checked. Then standby attitude indicator is also checked, measures artificial horizon, 0 degrees of bank, and airspeed is showing 0. Alright, sweet. Altitude select. We are heading south. We are heading southwest, so I don't mind cruising at an altitude of 4,500 feet. Let's do 4,500 feet, but we'll keep an eye on the clouds as we go. And then we're still heading southwest, so we'll still hold 4,500 feet. And let's see here, what else do we have? Standby flight instruments are checked, fuel quantity is checked. Mixture control, we're not going to put it rich as yet, so we'll hold off on that for now. So we'll go ahead and put that up. And let me put in my flight plan here.
Attention all aircraft. Hilton Head, altimeter 3011.
3011, check. Let's put here, I'm going to anchor, waypoint, fixed call, and anchor. So we'll just put that there. And core, I guess you could call it. Just throw that in there. If I can find the O. There we go. And then, where's the R? Anchor. From there, we're going to go to KSSI, Kilo Sierra Sierra, India. Alright. Sierra Sierra, India. Alright. Awesome. So now let's get the show on the road. We're going to turn the taxi lights on. We're going to start our taxi here. Yeah, check the brakes. Like I said, once we're off the ground and we're at a good enough altitude, pressure no leakage, we'll go ahead and talk about my experience on the check ride. And pretty much how it went from the oral all the way through to the flight portion. Let's see here, 28. Let's see how to get out of here. Oops. Make a left turn. Should have briefed the taxi actually. Head on out. We'll take our time. We'll just stop right here at the non-movement area. And then we'll go ahead and look at the taxi chart and see how we can get to runway 28. So here we'll stop right here. Once again, in real life, this is a Class Delta airspace. We would have to, of course, call for taxi, request for taxi, give them the weather information that we have. But in this case, this is a simulator, so and VetSim is not online, so just do the flight as if it's fly out of this airport as if it's an uncontrolled field. And plus, I'm not connected to VetSim. Right. So taxi diagram here. Looking at the taxi diagram. We're at the north hangars. So take off runway 21 here. Runway 21. If we can take a nice outward view. Whoops. Runway 21 is right here. So we'll just make a right turn onto Alpha, taxi down Alpha. We could do our run up holding short of the runway. And then we'll get on out of here and we'll talk about this check ride. Clear left. It's actually departing runway 21 here. As a matter of fact, what I'll go ahead and do, I'll go ahead and do my run up in this area right here. Just point it into the wind. Alright. Let's bring that down back to 1,000 RPM and then we're going to do the run-up checklist. If I can populate it here. Awesome. So it's saying here mixture. We could put the mixture full rich. Fuel selector valve is on both. Autopilot. We can engage the autopilot. Right. Flight control check. We'll do it again. Left aileron goes up. Right aileron goes down. Center. Right aileron goes up. Left aileron goes down. Center. Alright, elevators. Check the elevators. It goes back, forward, left, right, Flight controls are free and correct. Right? Let's see what it does here. So, alright, flight controls are checked. Autopilot trim disconnect. We'll go ahead and disconnect. It does disconnect, as we can see here. And go ahead and take that flight director. As a matter of fact, we'll take the flight director with us here. We'll turn on the heading mode. And let's see here. Flight directors says off. We're going to keep it on. Elevator trim is set for takeoff. Right. And we're going to set the throttle to 1800 RPM to check our magnetos. So I guess 1800 RPM stabilized. I'd like to verify my oil pressure and oil temperature is still in the green. Right, that's a good job. Back to both. F-mag, that's a good job. Back to both. Awesome. So, mags are looking good. Vacuum indicator is showing a good vacuum right there. If I bring the throttle to idle, it should show me enunciation right here. Low vacuum. Right, and we'll put it back to 1000 RPMs. Engine indicators, oil pressure, oil temperature is in the green, vacuum's looking good, and electrical indicators. We have our main, our M bus and our E bus showing 28 volts, and then our main battery and standby battery showing positive charge. If I lock the alternator off, my main and standby battery will show discharge. If I turn it back on, it should rise, as shown right there. And let's see here. I want to verify my squawk code. So AOT. Alright. Then why not add the BRG to GPS? Alright. So that's good. The throttle's idle. We check those. Comms are set. Alright, awesome. Nav frequencies we don't need today, and then FMS GPS flight plan is filed. Squawk is set to 1200. CDI soft key is set to GPS. Alright. Now we can go ahead. Cabin power 12 switch is off. Wing flaps are going to keep up for normal departure. Cabin windows, we can close those windows. Close on the right, I'll close mine on the left. And then strobe lights, we don't turn it on just as yet, but we will release the brakes and before takeoff checklist is complete. Alright, sweet. So I'll go ahead. Let's make a left turn. It's easier to make this left turn. Nice little 360. Partial 360, I guess. Alright, here we are. Alright, we're going to take off runway 21. And normally this is where we would do the departure briefing. Well, not with the abort plan briefing, actually. We do an abort plan briefing. Which is basically what you would do for if anything were to happen on the runway below a certain altitude or above a certain altitude. What are the actions you will take to get the airplane on the ground safely? Awesome. I guess I could do my version of it. I guess we could do that. Awesome. So we're going to take off runway 21. And we're going to go ahead and depart out to the southwest. So that's just going to be a straight ahead departure. If anything happens on the runway, I'm going to reduce the power to idle, ease on the brake stop on the runway. If I lose my engine below 500 feet, I will pitch for 65 knots, which is the best guide speed in the airplane, in this airplane. and I will head straight ahead while keeping the gear below us. These gears. If I lose my engine above 500 feet, I will pitch for 65, pick a field, head to the field, and attempt to restart. Right, that will complete the abortion plan. Strobe lights are on, landing lights are on, and then let's go ahead and take the runway. We would get our clearance. We would assume we got our clearance for takeoff, so we'll just take the runway here. Instead of 210 heading, why not? I tend to like to practice a lot, even though I am a private pilot now. I think it's very important that we still, if you have a simulator, that you practice these things. Treat it as if you're doing it in the real world. All right. So here, verify 2-1. We'll go ahead and apply full power. The wheels are on the floor. Verify 2-1. Throttle set. T's and P's are on the green. Airspeed's alive. 50, 55. We're off the ground. Just stay in ground effect for a little bit. Get to our VY. There she comes. She wants to fly. Right, mixture is full rich. Throttle is full. Oil pressure, oil temperature is looking good. Throttle's still set. Vacuum's looking good. We're climbing at a good speed. Mags are on both. Beautiful. There goes 400 feet. Once we reach 500 feet, throw on the autopilot and make our turn. So flight course, autopilot, and let's make our turn. We'll just go ahead and climb to 4,500 feet, and we'll go from there. Awesome. So as we're climbing, as a matter of fact, I'll just click direct to. I'll do this way. Direct to anchor, and then nav. So it's verified GPS, altitude select is armed, because we're climbing up to 4,500 feet. Alright, awesome. So as we're climbing to our cruising altitude, I guess I could use this time to talk about my check ride. Alright, so basically 3 months ago I took my private pilot check ride. For those who are not fully familiar or not familiar at all with how you get your private pilot's license, you first have to go to a flight school and do a discovery flight. So to confirm that this is what you want to do, you want to go flying, you want to fly for the fun of it, or you want to fly as a career. And then after you do the discovery flight, then you start flight training. You start your first lesson. If you don't know anything about airplanes, they start you off fresh, or if you know a little bit about airplanes, you could work based off of that and continue on there. So let's see. After you do your discovery flight, you start your first flight lesson. From there, you just build hours. The FAA has a requirement of you having up to 40 hours, towards getting your private pilot's license, but of course I would suggest having more. I actually ended up getting my private pilot's license with way more than 40 hours. And then from there, here, let's make a right turn to get away from those clouds. It's 60 heading mode. Then from there, once you get to your 40 hours, the 40 hours consist of not only just dual flight instructing, but also solo time, cross-country solo, which is flying from your home airport to another airport, and also flying by yourself to sharpen up on your skills. Once you have reached to that point where you are able to once you've reached that point where you are able to take the check ride, you've reached your 40 hours, your flight instructor will sign you off, just like how he or she will sign you off for your solo. You have to fill out a form on a website called IACRA to apply for your private pilot's license. You get a DPE, and from there on, you're ready for your check ride. You're just waiting for your check ride date. You're preparing more and more for your check ride. For your check ride. The check ride is separated in two portions. You have, three portions really, because you have to take your written before the check ride, and you have to of course pass the written with a 70% or higher. Then from there, that's when you can go ahead and take the check ride. So if you don't, you can have the hours, but if you haven't taken the written, you cannot do the check ride. So after having the 40 hours or more than the 40 hours, completing all your solo time, that adds on to the 40 hours that you get, and doing your written, you get your it's time for you to take your check ride. The check ride is separated into two portions. You have the oral, and then you also have the actual flying portion of the check ride. Here, I see it's a layer of clouds over there, so I'm just gonna turn a little bit to the left here. It's a bit of multitasking here, pretty fun. Alright, awesome. Just get above those cloud layers. Probably have to use a higher altitude. Around 1,000 feet to go until 4,500. So yes. So the check ride is separated into two sections. You have the oral and the actual flying portion. The oral you have to take first before you can go fly, and the oral portion is basically where the designated pilot examiner, who is I guess you could call it the FAA examiner, he comes and he basically asks you a numerous amount of questions. Everything that you've prepared for with the 40 hours of training, the written exam that you've taken, it's time for you now to teach it to that DP, or not teach it, but have a conversation with the DP about that information. So they'll ask questions. So they have a guide that the DP has a guide that he or she uses to ask you the questions, and they want you to be able to answer those questions according to what you understand, according to what what your certified flight instructor has taught you, what you have read, and also what you've taken on the written exam. They don't expect you to know it by textbook, but they want to see that you have an understanding of your airplane, of the airspace system that you're flying in, and those sorts. Here we're coming up at 4,500 feet, as you can see. Before I continue, I think we should probably climb to a higher altitude. Maybe. Or, doesn't matter, we'll hold this altitude for now. If anything, I'll just descend, so I don't want to be above the clouds and can't find a layer to get down. So we'll go ahead and reduce the throttle to cruising RPMs 50, and then we'll lean out the mixture. Alright, there we go. Alright, awesome. So they'll ask you numerous questions. For me, it lasted 2 hours. For some people, it probably will last more. And after you've passed the oral, which you of course have to pass before you can go fly, you pass the oral, then you head into the flying portion. Now, the flying portion is basically taking everything that you talked about from the oral and applying it into real life, because the DP is going to want you to plan a VFR cross-country flight, and he or she wants you to show them that you understand what you've made, why you've made it that way. You understand the airspace, the atmosphere around you, and how you can deal with those, and how you're going to fly with those with the traffic around you and those sorts. Not only that, they also want to know how you will deal with certain situations pertaining to your aircraft in case of an emergency, or you understand the basic regulations of required equipment in your aircraft. Then from there, you go ahead and take the flying portion. They ask you to do a couple of maneuvers, fly a couple of landings, short field, soft field, normal takeoffs and landings, and then it's pretty much calling it. That pretty much calls it a day. They're not going to test you on every single thing in the book, but they're going to test you on the parts that they think they think would be a good point to test you on. And this is all based off of the written exam, because when you go for your check ride, the reason why you take the written exam is because the DPs want to see what questions you've gotten wrong, what questions you got wrong, so that way you could correct it. So that way they can ask you those same questions to see if you studied to try and understand that information more, or you have a better understanding of that information, or know why you got the question wrong on your written. So basically, for me, I went through all of those. I went through the whole process. I started flying at the age of 12. I started training at the age of 12-ish, or I guess, but I started flying at the age of 12, not for training purposes, but when I turned 14, I started actually taking flight lessons. And I kind of hopped around all over the place. I was privately trained for a bit, then I ended up going to a flight school, and then I went from one flight school to going back to private training, and then back. Well, it's basically a private training, but through the high school that I used to go to, and then I ended up heading back to flight school, and then I switched to another flight school and got privately trained until I could finally solo meet all my requirements to get my license. So my check ride was basically a normal day. A bit nerve-wracking because it's the first time you're taking a private pilot check ride, or you're taking a exam where that basically you're paying a lot of money to get your license for. My DP was a very nice DP. He was a very fair DP, I must say. I did my check ride out of North Palm Beach County General Aviation Airport, Foxtrot 45, and basically, the oral was a series of questions about my aircraft, required equipment for my aircraft. It basically what would I do in certain situations? How could I detect based off of the knowledge that I have about my airplane, if something were to happen with my engine, what could have failed, or those sorts. Then we would go into the cross country. We'll talk about the cross country flight plan, the different airspaces, and what are the requirements to get into the different airspaces, those sorts. And also, what are the required equipments? What equipments do we need in our airplane? What are some things that we need in our airplane that that for example, a Class Bravo airspace. There are certain equipments that you need in a Class Bravo airspace that you may not need that you won't need in a Class Gulf airspace or a Class Delta airspace. So those sorts of questions, especially with weather, a few weather questions, visibility, basic VFR minimums, basic VFR weather minimums, and those sorts. So he would ask a series of questions on those part inspections of the aircraft and throw different scenarios at me. And after that, he'll usually ended it off with a very odd question that was in the AIM. I actually go ahead and say that it's a scuba diving question. He put it in a scenario form where he was asking basically, can I go scuba diving? Can I go flying after scuba diving? Very weird question, but I got it right gladly. I guess one thing I may say is that I did also, people that have taken the check ride prior to people that have taken the check ride prior to me or that have taken the check ride with him have also given me a few pointers. And I took those and I made sure I practiced those pointers that those people gave me, and it really.
Hilton at altimeter 3012.
Go ahead, 3012. Switch that frequency, and that really helped me have a better. The more I practiced it, the more confident I got in answering the questions. So not only did I get help, but I also did my own studying on my part as well. Just make sure I'm not busting any airspaces here. No, Savannah. Okay, this is a Class Delta. Some Class Deltas do extend, so just verifying. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, we're well above it. Alright, awesome. Thinking maybe I should descend down. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe I should descend down. Probably to 3,500 feet. See what that looks like. We'll keep an eye on it. But I'll just arm 2,500 just in case. But I am thinking of taking this section right here. I do want to take that section right there to avoid the all the traffic. As a matter of fact, I'll do a 020 heading, the 220 heading. I mean, probably give it a 225 heading. Yeah. So where was I? Huh. Yeah. So okay. So basically, he asked me a series of questions, more like a conversation. There's nothing for them to come and drill you. My DP at least didn't come and drill me. It was more of a conversation. He actually gave me a few pointers, taught me a few things that I didn't know, which I really appreciated. And not only that, it really made the atmosphere of the check ride much more easy for me. It made me feel as if I'm actually having a conversation with my flight instructor or a fellow friend who also flies as well. So I was really happy that he really made that atmosphere for me, and that led to me actually passing. the oral portion of the check ride. Well, one thing I must say is, if you do not know if you do not know the answer to a question, or if you cannot remember the answer to a question, it is okay to say, hey, can we skip that question? It's okay to ask if you could skip that question. Can you think about the question some more and then come back to it? It is okay to say, hey, can I search it up? And a lot of people, and don't take that second statement for granted, because a DP can ask you a lot of questions, but you do not want to go there unprepared. There are certain questions that they ask you that they expect you to know right off the bat. So if they ask you about the 4 forces of flight, you shouldn't go into the P-hack to find that. You should know that right off the bat. But if it's something regulation related, we're humans, we don't remember every single thing. So it's okay to ask, hey, I don't know the answer to the question, but I know where to find it. And that was the same situation that I actually got stuck with. I had the acronym 8 Tomato Flames. I didn't actually remember I remembered most of it, but I didn't remember the entire thing. So I said, hey, I remember most of it. Can I write it down? And give me a sheet of paper and let me write it down. Not only did he let me write it down, I also asked him, hey, could I also search up the last few? He said, let's see if you can remember the last few letters, what the last few letters stand for. And I couldn't remember it, so he said, hey, go ahead and search in the far aim regulation. And that's exactly what I did, and that just made my life way more easier, utilizing the resources that I have at my disposal. So just remember, I can't stress that enough, that when you go into the check ride, don't think that you cannot use any resources at all. The P-hack is perfectly legal. The far aim is perfectly legal. You could use those sources. I didn't carry a P-hack with me, of course, but I did carry my far aim. My far aim was actually on my iPad, so I was able to put up the far aim on my iPad and show it to him. So feel free to say, hey, I need to search up this question. I don't know the answer to it, but I most definitely know where to find it, because that'll also show that that also show the DP that if this person doesn't know, this person is a good pilot, because if he or she doesn't know what the answer is to a question, they know exactly where to find it. The flight instructor has showed them the resources that they have in front of them to use at their disposal. And like I said, like my first statement that I made, if you're unsure of an answer, you don't know where to find it, or even if it's a question that's not even in the book, which majority of the questions are in the book, of course, they just say, hey, can we come back to that question? Can I give it a little bit of a thought? And also, if you get a question wrong and you're thinking about the question and you just remember the right answer, feel free to say, hey, is it okay if I can change? I remember you asked this question. You can state the question and say, hey, I would like to change my answer. I just remembered the correct answer. And there's nothing wrong with asking that. The worst thing that DP could ever say is no. So never think that that is ever a bad thing to ask to change your answer, ask to look up the answer, or even say, hey, I don't know the answer, but I can find it. But I know where to find it. Let's see. After that, he would also ask. After that, he basically said, "Hey, the check ride, your oral portion is over. You passed the oral portion. It's now time to go fly." Never in a moment think that after a check ride, after the oral portion of your of your check ride, don't think that the exam is over. They can fail you at any point. And in my situation, and if you guys end up in this situation as well, the weather wasn't up to par. The winds were outside of my personal limitations, and because of that, we had to deal with we had to decide whether or not we were gonna fly on that day, or if we were gonna just discontinue the check ride and pick up from where we left off on another day. So that's one thing I must say, that they will ask you, hey, they'll say, hey, let's go fly. You're the pilot in command at this point, because the check ride, you going towards your private pilot's license, is basically saying, hey, I'm taking this exam so I can be the pilot, so that way I can be the pilot controlling this airplane. I can take people in this airplane. I can make proper aeronautical decisions and all of those sorts. So be sure, if they say, hey, let's go fly, and the weather's not up to par, tell them, hey, I'm sorry, but unfortunately we're going to have to discontinue this flight because the weather is outside my personal minimums, or the wind is outside my personal minimums. That will show the DP that you have very good decision-making skills, aeronautical decision-making skills, and that's also another pass for you as well. Because if you go into, now granted, they will actually let you fly in, if the weather is really bad. Some DPs, they will say, hey, no, you don't want to fly, or you made a very bad decision, or they may even say, oh, really, well, let's go fly. And then the check ride turns out, your flying portion of your check ride turns out pretty bad, and then you get I guess a dissatisfactory, I guess you could call it. To make sure, it's very important that you're very aware of the fact that even if your oral is done, the exam is not done. And that was the situation that I was with. During the oral, I was keeping an eye on the weather. Foxtrot 45, unfortunately, used to have an AWOS that was working just fine. The AWOS system is now terrible. Here, we'll get around this small layer of cloud. The AWOS is now terrible. It doesn't even work. So I kind of had to go based off of Palm Beach. I had to go off of Palm Beach International's current weather information, as well as what I saw outside, the windsock, what the winds were doing to the airplanes that were coming in on the approach. And I was able to make the decision that, hey, we need to discontinue this check ride and continue on a later and resume on a later day or later down in the week. And that was a good decision that I made, because the winds were really bad, and that would have affected the way I performed, especially as a student pilot that is now taking the check ride to transition to a private pilot. So never in a moment think that you have to get things out of the way. Get the check ride out of the way if you really want. You're paying a lot of money for the check ride. You're paying this DP a lot of money, so you don't want to just get the check ride over and done with, and then you end up failing it and having to pay another hundreds of dollars to get your license. So it is very important. Thinking here, I'm keeping an eye out this airplane. Let's see. Let's see here. Apparently I cannot, trying to look here to see the clouds. Okay. Let's see where if I can remember right what I was saying. Lost my train of thought. But anyways, long story short is, come prepared to the check ride. Do not be stressed. I was stressed, but then my DP took all that stress away. I guess you could say, and yeah. Feel free to research what you need to research, but still at the end of the day, again, I'll say it again, even though you can do the research in your oral, make sure that you also are prepared. You have the information stuck in your brain. So here we go. So we did our flight. We did our flight a couple of days down the line, since I discontinued the flight. And the flight went pretty well. It was basic maneuvers, stall, steep turns. First, you of course have to fly the cross country routing that you've made. For me, my cross country was from North County to Key West International. And then from there, we would do takeoffs and landings, soft field takeoffs, short field takeoffs, soft field landings, short field landings, and then the normal takeoff and landings. Then from there, you continue doing ground reference maneuvers, those sorts. And the DP just wants to see that you're able to execute these maneuvers, you understand why you're doing these maneuvers. And once you execute the maneuver in a form that's satisfactory to the DP, then he or she will say, "Hey, take me back," and there you go, you've passed, and that ends it for your check ride. So my suggestions prior to your check ride: for your oral, be sure to bring what they call a check ride binder. It really helped me for my check ride, especially for my oral, because everything was right there for the DPE to see. Not only that, the check ride binder is a form of checklist to see the things that you need for that check ride. For example, God forbid if you're flying with the flight school, sometimes people will steal checklists. Surprisingly, it's weird, but it happens. So God forbid you're flying a Cessna 172 Skyhawk and the airplane is missing a checklist and all the other planes are gone. Well, in your check ride binder, you have a checkmates checklist that you could use. I'll just turned a bit too much. I'll just give it a little bit of a turn here. A 220 heading. Or a little more. I guess 195. Be sure to so you have that checklist there, that you have that paper checklist that you can use. I guess just like how we talk about magnetos and redundancy, basically print out an extra sheet of checklist for just in case there's a checklist that is missing, or the checklist is missing in the airplane, all the other airplanes are gone, or possibly the airplanes are a different model but the checklists are different for those airplanes than the plane that you're going to fly. Also, make sure you print out your POH, the important parts of the POH, because when the DP asks you a question, the DP will follow up those questions by asking you to show them where it is located or where can you find the information. So don't expect that when you go into the oral your oral part of your exam, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions and you're just going to answer them and just be right all of a sudden. You can get it right, but if you do not know if you just know the answer and don't know how you came by that answer or where the answer is located, then that's going to be a problem for you in the check ride. So make sure that you print out your POH. It doesn't need to be the whole sheet. I know ink is very expensive, but print out a sheet of paper that will print out a few sheets of papers that you know are most definitely needed for the check ride. Make sure you print those out, and like for example, the performance, weight and balance, or even if it's the electrical portion of your POH. Make sure. Also, make sure you carry your maintenance log. And before I get into maintenance log, let me decide what I want to do here. Right now, so where I'm at, I'm near MOA. I don't like flying at MOAs, and I'm 4,000. This starts at 300 feet. So it goes all the way to up to, but not including 18,000. Up to, not including 17,999. So what could I do? We'll go ahead and take a nice descent on down. This is the peak of this is the farthest I can push it. Not 1,000 feet per minute. No. Uh-oh. There we go. We'll reduce the throttle. I could go there, but I don't like flying at MOAs, so I like to avoid them more than fly into them. I mean, it's perfectly legal to fly into MOAs, but we have to exercise extreme caution. I mean, but I still don't like to fly into MOAs unless it's really, really necessary. So we just descend down to 2,500 feet, and we'll get below these cloud layers. And better yet, we'll just stay in this vicinity right here to follow the roads. So like I said, as you can see, even though this is a simulator, I do like to practice. I still do like to practice a lot of things that I do in real life, because it keeps me sharp with my flying skills. I haven't flown in a bit, which I really do need to fly to keep proficient. But using the simulator is a very good source, or a very good tool. I'm going to steepen this descent a bit more. Don't want to end up in IMC condition. We'll pull the throttle a little bit more. This is a fuel injected engine, so we don't need to worry about carburetor icing. But I do like to practice what I intend to do in the real world, to make sure that and also to see where I am currently with my decision making skills, and I could take that, learn from that, and improve on that. There goes 2,000. That's 3,500. So I do still want to get that cloud clearance. So I'm gonna do 1,500 feet and just follow that road. And once I reach to a high enough altitude, then I'll continue on. Speaking of which, actually I'm getting close to my airport. So there's nothing wrong with me getting to a lower altitude. So I'm going to give a slight right turn. So yeah, make sure you bring a check ride binder. I highly suggest bringing a check ride binder. It keeps your priorities in order, It makes you extra prepared. It impresses the DPE. And please, 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 my flight instructor made sure he told me this. Please, if you want to do flying as your career, it's better if you present first impressions. Make a very big difference, especially in aviation. First impressions make a huge difference. Let's make a huge left turn right here. Yeah, so we need to speed up actually. Yeah, first impressions make a very difference in a difference, and the difference when you just show up in just shorts and sneakers. So if you want to do this as a career, carry yourself in a manner which I guess you could call it you mean business. This is not just something I want to do for fun. This is something that I want to do as a career, and I value this field. Once you are able to show that, that's just going to help you. It's going to make life easier for you. So basically, I wore a nice khaki slack and a dress shirt. Something pretty presentable enough. And believe it or not, my DP actually came with a slack, a dress shoe, and a polo shirt. So he carried himself well also. So again, if you want to do this as a career, make sure, if you want to do flying as a career, just like me, make sure you carry yourself in a manner that is appropriate. Speaking of airports here, we're gonna go ahead and tune into
3,300 at 12,000, temperature 32, dew point 24, altimeter 3011.
3011.
Automated weather observation, Malcolm McKinnon, St. Simon's Island Airport. Wind 080 degrees at 6 knots. Visibility more than 10 miles. Rain. Sky conditions scattered at 3,300. View at 12,000. Temperature 32. Dew point 24. Altimeter 3011.
Alright, I'm happy with that. I just put what I'm saying on pause really quick here, so that way I could just focus on getting this airplane on the ground safely. So I guess we could do direct to see how far we are. Okay, good. So I see the clouds are kind of pretty low on this end, so I'm thinking maybe I could this is what I was worried about the most. As you can see, it's a big layer out there, which is clear skies, but if I were to climb higher above them, there's a possibility there would have been more, there would have been no way I could have gotten below that cloud layer. Awesome. I guess I could resume what I was saying about the check ride binder. Well, I did talk about carrying yourself properly, but we're past that. The check ride binder, yeah, make sure you have that. POH maintenance, yes. You do not want to have the maintenance log a week prior to the check ride. You kind of want to get that the day before or the day of, like right before the check ride, like before you even start your check ride, because you want to make sure all your maintenance logs are up to date. If we look at all of our requirements, the Aviation acronym is a very great example, pretty self-explanatory of what it stands for. All of those inspections, that's what your maintenance log pertains to. So you want to make sure that you have all of that information not a week ahead of, but a day before or even the day of. That's the only thing that's really last second that you need to get. Your nav log. The nav log that you're going to use, make sure you have that in the binder. So very good way of displaying it. if you have a VFR sectional chart, you can use the VFR sectional chart. Personally, I used ForeFlight. ForeFlight is of course legal to use in your check ride, so feel free. I drew out. Feel free to use it. I drew out my. I actually drew out my my routing on ForeFlight, and that made my life much more easy than having to buy 2 sectional charts, especially in Florida where it doesn't depict Key West. It only depicts Miami and then further up north. So it just made life better for me just using ForeFlight. So yeah, just make sure that when you go into the check ride, you work smart. No, don't work hard, but work smart, as they would say. And don't be quick to answer. You think about the question that DPA has given you, and from there, once you think about that question, go ahead and if you have the answer to it, answer it, and answer it in a way where it's clear, it's easy to understand, and don't dig yourself a hole. If you watch a lot of the videos that are given by, I guess you could call the M0A or Fly Mike Alpha, they always tell you, don't when they ask you a question, answer the question and let the awkward silence be there. Because if you continue talking about that or adding more information on top of the question that you answered, you're digging yourself a hole that you cannot get out of. Here we're gonna get to higher altitudes. So be sure to think before you speak, and yeah, basically that's it. I don't want to repeat myself. I'm sure I pretty much repeated myself multiple times already. That's basically how my check ride went. Wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, or as some people made it seem. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed the check ride. It's a moment that I'll forever remember, of course, and most definitely, if for people that are going towards their PPL, of course, best of luck to you guys, and don't stress too much about it unless it's really something that you don't know, that you really need to work on. But other than that, we'll just continue with this flight. We'll find our way through these clouds, and then we'll call it a day. Possibility I may do a nice little evening flight. I did get a request to do a flight from Atlanta to Memphis in the FedEx Boeing 767, so we may just go ahead and do that. Once again, if you guys don't know, this channel is fairly new, so all the support that is given is greatly appreciated. Yeah, oh Lord, we gotta get lower. Let's see. All the support is greatly appreciated, and if you go ahead and click on the like button, subscribe if you can, press on the notification button. My goal here on this channel is just to learn more about aviation and spread the love of aviation that I have and what the field has in store for me. At this point, I'm really just flying, guys. Really just flying all over the place because I'm multitasking. multitasking more than I normally do. But yeah, you know, make sure you hit that subscribe button and show the support, and tell your friends and family about this channel. And, you know, hopefully we can get this channel growing. And yeah, so just gonna get through this layer here. I see a nice little layer, a nice small layer that I can get through. I'm just gonna keep that climb going in. Hopefully I can get a 220 out here. And also feel free, I'm not a flight instructor, as you guys know. I think I've said it multiple times enough. I am a private pilot. I'm not certified to teach anybody, yet at least. But if you have any questions, or if you need any help with getting your private pilot check right, or even if it's studying, I'd be glad to help. As a matter of fact, I'll leave my email down in the description below if I can figure out how to do that. But yeah, feel free to ask me as much questions as you'd like. And if I don't know the answers to it, that's why I have a flight instructor. I ask my flight instructor, and I'll try and he'll answer it for me, so I can pass it on to you. So yeah, awesome. Let's see if I can. This is what I feared the most. But we're through it. We're through it. We're around it. Turn the autopilot off for a bit. Hand flat the airplane for a little bit. Just try and dodge these clouds. I guess, so my status on where I am right now, I actually just started not too long ago. Instrument rating. So instrument rating has been a pretty fun thing to learn. It's really knowledge based, and you know, so far I've gone through ILS approaches, RNAV approaches, holding patterns is something that we're really focusing on, and we're actually going to continue that. We're going to continue holding patterns a lot. So pretty fun. It takes a lot of focus, more focus than flying VFR, I would say. Of course, you're flying in the clouds, but it's a very fun, very fun from my perspective. Having flown the simulator for a good amount of years now, doing a lot of IFR flights in the commercial jets. I must say that it's really fun to fly. It's really fun to now not only be a private pilot, but work towards my instrument rating and see, you know, the actual, not the labor, but the actual work that goes into an instrument flight and all the regulations and all those cool stuff. But yeah, I am actually looking for an extra study buddy. I have a friend of mine that is also starting his instrument as well, but you know, it'll be very good if we also had extra people. And for anyone who are actually very well seasoned pilots that, you know, come to see this channel, please feel free to share, you know, your information of what you've learned over the years of flying and what are your suggestions, because in the pilot community we're here to make each other better pilots, make each other much more safe pilots, and it would be well appreciated. If I can learn something new, that would most likely benefit me in the future, or help me in the future. So yeah, I know I ended up flying around because I wasn't really paying attention to the clouds here, but I mean, it's a simulator. But we're dodging the clouds right now, getting to lower altitudes, and We're gonna get this bad boy in the ground, and we're gonna call it a flight. And once again, feel free to share any flights that you'd like me to do. Because I said, more than likely tonight I'll be doing the flight from Atlanta to Memphis. Nothing long, it's about an hour flight. But feel free to share, you know, if you have any suggestions of where I should fly to. I would love to do it, you know. A little bit of rain here. So at this airport, no information on whether the runways are right traffic. So we're just gonna do a standard left traffic. I'm just gonna verify the weather information right now.
Degrees at 6 knots. Visibility more than 10 miles. Rain. Sky conditions scattered at 3,200. Scattered at 11,500. Temperature 32. Dew point 24. Altimeter 3011. Automated weather observation. Malcolm McKinnon, St. Simon's Island Airport. Wind 080 degrees at 6 knots. Visibility more than 10 miles. Rain. Sky conditions scattered at 3,200. Scattered at 11,500. Temperature 32. Dew point 24. Altimeter 3011.
Right. 2.5. There goes the airport. I have it in sight. Just that cars are getting pretty low here, so we'll descend on. Just get a nice descent on down to 1,000 feet. Enter for the left traffic pattern. As a matter of fact, let's continue on down to 1,000. Then from there, I'm just gonna. Cause there's no way I can fly above this airport. At 1,500 feet. So if I could get around it, that'd be even better. After flights like these, I normally look over and see what I could have. Like probably, I'm thinking early on, I probably could have just descended down to 1,000 feet, and I would have gotten to the ground. Probably would have gotten to this airport way faster than the route that I took. But it's all a learning experience. It's better to make the mistakes on the simulator than make them in real life and then end up dead. The winds are favoring runway 04. Doesn't matter. Yeah, let's do the 45. You want to enter right on the downwind. And oh, by the way, let me know what you guys think about tutorials, basic tutorials that I could, you know, that could demonstrate on the simulator. Nothing big, like I said, and I'll say it again. This is not a channel where I teach people how to fly. This is basically a channel where I just share my experience, what I've been taught. I'm not a certified flight instructor yet, so if you guys are interested in tutorials on how to cross country, something that will help you get your PPL, or once I get my instrument, something that will help you and me towards instruments, you know, feel free to ask, and I don't mind doing that as well. Not only is it helping, not only am I helping you guys, it's helping me because I'm learning myself. Alright, so here we are, we're on the left downwind. Do the gumps check. I got enough gas to get me on the ground. I got a wheel on both ends. Mixture can come in full rich. Be the numbers. Flaps 10. Power is set. Seatbelts are on. Flaps 20. Right. Oh, about 70 knots. Okay. Alright, let's start the turn. Don't get too far over this body of water here. Let's see, we're getting down to the glide speed. Just pitch back for 70. Anyway, there we go. Nice standard rate of turn. Alright. And put the last notch of flaps. Flaps are down, mixture full rich. Mags are on both. Landing lights are on. Alright. Picture 65. Let's see if we can get a greaser on here. See if I can start the turn here. Let's pitch the nose down a little more. Hopefully I don't overshoot. Right. But we have to go around. It seems they're a bit too high. Let's see. What can we do? So far I see. Okay, here we are. Yes, we cannot make this. So we'll go around. Right. And then flaps up. Nothing wrong with going around. So we'll try this approach again. Feet. Do a standard rate of turn here. Just keep an eye on those clouds there. Keep the turn in there. 1,000 feet. It's a bit bumpy up. Get back down to 1,000 feet here. Out of the idle to decelerate much more quick. 80 knots, flaps, and flaps. Let's add in that speed to maintain 70. Holding 1,000. Alright. Go ahead. Start the descent. Alright. Put in the last notch of flaps. This looks like a much more stable approach. Well, start the turn. Push the nose down a little bit to hold 65 knots. We're turning final. I overshot a little bit. Get her on down. Turn the aileron into the wind. Put a crosswind right there. Still too high. Let's get her down. We're just gliding her down. Alright, awesome. We got the butter. Alright. Just let the airplane roll out. And let's see, we'll just taxi on down to the end of the runway. Unless we see taxi wave come up. I think I see one. So we'll just continue. Alright. So we'll turn off right here. We'll taxi in and shut off. There goes Alpha 4. Let's taxi via Delta into the ramp. Just hold short of that runway right there. Ooh, it's a pretty heavy braking right there. 1,000 RPMs. Flaps up. Trim set for takeoff position. Check. Taxi lights on, strobe off. Make sure you can come in lean for taxi. There we go. And there we go. Let's go taxi on in. Go ahead and taxi on in and we'll call it a day. Well, a flight. Taxi on into one of these ramps right here. Open my window up here. Just make the first turn in right here. And we'll just go ahead and park right there, right in front of us. Do a right, and then a nice little left turn. So awesome. Go ahead and shut her down. Avionics come off. Mixture idle. Throttles off. Just waiting for the propeller to stop spinning. Alright. Let's go ahead and take the key out. Put it on the dashboard. Switch the fuel tank to the left position. Turn the master and the standby battery off. Alright, good. Alright, so that concludes the flight for today, the GA flight. I do assume that I will be back for the short Atlanta to Memphis FedEx flight. And yep, so thank you for joining me on this flight. Thank you for if you have made it this far, thanks for listening to me talk about how my check ride went and my experience. And if you have any more questions about the check ride, feel free to ask me. I'll be sure to leave my email in the comment section below. If you have any questions to ask, or if you want to do any study sessions. Alrighty, so have a great one.